All right, everyone. Elizabethwarren is doing the semi-annual March of the Democrats into minority communities to pander to them, and she's starting with the Native Americans, Mesoamerican tribal communities. She's now releasing her slew of plans to help tribes throughout the United States. I thought about this. If it were Kamala Harris or Bernie Sanders or Biden or someone, it wouldn't really be funny because it's like, yeah, the Democrats are doing what the Democrats do, which is say we're going to give you more free money. And it won't do anything, and ultimately, at the end of the day, it's basically a bribe for votes. That's basically what it boils down to. But with Warren, it's a little bit different. Why? Because she lied and said she was like a Cherokee for most of her life. She got ahead in life in part by pretending to be something that she's not, specifically Mesoamerican. Her DNA results that she herself touted don't show that. They show her as being 99.99% pure white European, with the possibility, and it's not even necessarily true, that she has some sort of Asiatic ancestry somewhere like 10, 15 generations ago that could be from as far off as Peru. But she's convinced that possible great 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 grandparent or whatever it would have to be gave her high cheekbones. And so she said back in the 70s, she's like, oh yeah, I'll contribute some recipes to Powwow Chow because I'm such a good Cherokee tribal member. She could never be admitted to a Native American tribe. It's hilarious. So she's pandering. Now here's what the Democrats do. They'll go to the tribe, whatever tribe they're tied to, and they'll usually talk to the big ones because, you know, they have more votes. Now, so she'll go to Nevada and talk to some tribe, and she'll say, well, I will give you more wampum for your votes. It's basically what, it's this sort of weird ritual among the Democrats. They go to these communities, and it's like Gillibrand breaking down into Ebonics at that church, or Hillary Clinton rambling about hot sauce in her handbag and how much she loves that fried chicken when she was pandering to voters in the inner city in the Deep South. These people are really... It's sort of like Shakespearean acting, but they're like the C-listers, I guess. They're just not that good at it. So Elizabethwarren, she goes to the tribe and says, well, I'll give you more money. It's basically, if you read her plan, what it boils down to. Oh, we're going to improve education and addiction treatment and the medical. So basically give them free money. But the thing is, the way in which the U.S. government deals with Native American reservations, they give the money to the people who represent them, the group of lawyers and businessmen, basically, who run everything. They will take most of that money for themselves and for their casinos, which they expand continuously to make more money off of the misery of their own people, and they will screw the rest of their tribe and give them tiny amounts of welfare, which ensures that they have just enough money to keep going to that casino, blowing it on gambling or on alcohol. That's really what it boils down to. Addiction rates in like West Virginia and shit pale in comparison to what you've got on some of these reservations. It never gets talked about as a serious political issue outside of these states where tribal membership is more common. Why? Because the government doesn't have any way to address it that doesn't boil down to get rid of the reservations entirely, which is what we should be doing. Here's a novel approach. Get rid of the reservations. They don't need to exist. There's no legitimate reason to continue maintaining a miserable, unassimilated minority in the country. There's no reason to do that. This boomerite mentality of the noble savage out on the reservation with his mule and his teepee, that's not real. That's not how it works on Native American tribal lands. Look at the crime statistics that we do have, and I'm sure that it's far underreported, and tell me that that's some sort of noble situation that the taxpayers of the U.S. should continue propping up for noble reasons. Oh, we're sorry we killed all your ancestors. Here, we'll give you a piece of land here, and some casino owner will tell you what you can do. Morally upright. And that's people like Elizabethwarren are the ones that have actually engineered that crisis. Dissolve the native lands entirely. Get rid of the concept of reservations. It's an ugly peer. It's going to eventually be seen. I'm going to make a prediction here. It might take 100 years, but you see if I'm not right. Maybe your grandchildren will see it. There will come a day in which people in future generations will look back on the existence of reservations and laugh. They'll say, my God, it's basically a form of quasi-segregation. It never made fiscal sense. It was always abusive. It allowed the 1% of the 1% of people with tribal membership to fuck the rest of their tribe and make a lot of money. It made a handful of people a lot of money, and those people then took some of that money, bankrolled the politicians, as part of their lobbying efforts and kept the money flowing. It was a corporate scheme. It was bullshit. And it was racist too, and it didn't make any fucking sense whatsoever. Dissolve the reservations. It might take 50 years, 100 years, maybe 200 years from now. Somebody's going to realize that, and it's going to become a social movement. Because it is bullshit. The idea that someone's ancestors were inconvenienced so that they have to be treated differently in today. Okay, make that with a straight face, and I can at least understand why you've got that mentality. But if you look on the ground at how the reservation systems actually physically, pragmatically work, they don't. There's the problem. Get rid of them. Fuck the reservations. If a person has Native American, you'd be better off saying, okay, the government's going to give you a chunk of land of your own. Not a reservation, but a piece of private property. This is yours. Sell it if you want. Fucking make money. Keep it if you want. Ranch on it. Do whatever the fuck you want. And we're just going to give you a check each month for the rest of your life as part of an overall settlement. And we're going to phase it out too. But fuck the reservations. There shouldn't be special allowance given to some goofball with a casino who pretends to speak for his tribe simply because one of his great-great-great-grandparents used to wander around on a painted horse. I mean, it's a boomer mythology, but it's bullshit. It pisses me off because I probably do have some Native American heritage. I'm probably part Abenaki. And I don't mean like Elizabethwarren, like, oh yeah, 18 generations ago, someone bought a squaw, and so that was my great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-grandmother's. No, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about much more recently. And by the way, that was through the eugenics era, if you had partial Native American lineage and they knew about it, they would fucking sterilize you in this state as late as the 1970s. Eugenics continued in Vermont longer than anywhere else, almost in the entire Western world. Did you know this? I'm literally in the seat of fucking eugenics. Eugenics practically began at the University of Vermont. Eugenics pretty much begins in the state of Vermont and then spreads all over the US. And then decades later, by the way, it spreads to Europe and infects like Germany and shit. Hitler didn't dream up those eugenic plans he had. They were already well underway and being practiced openly by the U.S. medical community for almost half a century. People don't know this because victors write the history books. Elizabethwarren saying, I'm going to hope the tribes, successive Democratic politicians, every single election, I'm going to give you more money. I'm going to give you more help. I'm going to fix your problems. Have they ever? Or can we observe that the problem keeps getting fucking worse? Simple solution, get rid of the reservations entirely, liquidate them. Break up the land, give it to the individual people who comprise those tribes, number one. Give them a nice fat paycheck and 40 acres, problem solved. Get rid of those fucking casinos because they're fucking stupid. That's what you should do. You should put the casino owners and their lawyers in prison, along with the politicians taking their fucking money. Then if you want to be free, here's your 100 acres of land. You can't be free on that. Or fucking sell it. Become fucking rich. Allow some development or something. But you see pictures of these tribal reservations. People aren't wandering around and living in wigwams and shit. No, everything else is completely Western except for the political structure. Elizabethwarren's a turd. She's a fucking total moron. That's about all. Peace out.